actual correct.
Oh, someone must have. Usually it's like, what, way off.
5 or 7 or 10 minutes slow.
Good evening and welcome to the City of Sunbury Council meeting. It is December 15th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Bill St. John.
Here.
Damon Capel.
Here.
Greg Elliott.
Here.
Tim Ghost.
Here.
David Martin.
Here.
Cindy Cooper. Here.
I believe we had a meeting on December 1st of 2021. Would anybody like to make a motion or discuss? Make a motion.
I'll second.
Got a second by Greg Elliott. Discussion on the minutes from December 1st, 2021. Roll call.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
Greg Elliott.
Yes.
Tim Ghost.
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
Cindy Cooper. Yes. Dave Martin.
Yes.
6 yeas.
We're on to the visitor section of the meeting. Are there any visitors that would like to speak with council this evening? All right. We're on to committee reports. Start down here. Committee reports, Mr. Wood.
I don't have a committee report.
Right. Thank you, Mrs. Cooper.
Nothing tonight, sir.
All right, Mr. Capel.
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Ghost.
Yes, right before this meeting, about an hour ago, we had the finance meeting, monthly meeting. And the main item was the discussion of the benefit program that's due to renew here at the end of the year. And in front of you, you'll see these packets that we reviewed. So from a high level, as we discussed, I think everybody was in that meeting except Mr. Kaplan, I think the Mr. Mayor came in a little bit later. But so the first column, if you go to page 4, you'll see the current expiring premium and plan there, $381,000. That's about $31,000 per month. That's the village cost, right, Kathy? That's 95% of the total. Employees pay about pay the other 5%. So the renewal is the column next to that. And that's coming in at $431,000 annually, around $35,900 there per month. So it's an increase of about 13%. So, and that's actually sort of right there in the average increase for that market, for this particular group market plan in Ohio. So from an increase in a competitive standpoint for that kind of plan, it's fair and reasonable. But we did look at these MIWAs that our broker came up with, the multiple employer welfare arrangements. And you'll see the one on the far right there, you know, it offered a potential, well, the actual premium was $246,000 per year, which is about 40% less. And that came in around $20,000 per month. So we dove into that, and you know, we had to figure out why it was such a big difference. And we revisited this discussion we had a couple of years ago in 2019 for the same reasons. And Mr. Bream and I and Kathy were all in a meeting, a couple of meetings actually, spent a lot of time on this. We went back and forth with the chamber representative and Maggie a few times. And what we determined is, you know, in looking at the participation agreement that we talked about in finance, there's the indemnification clause in there that's still in there from a couple of years ago. And that just presents a problem from the village standpoint under the ORC 2744 sovereign immunity statute. So essentially, if we would agree to sign this participation agreement with the indemnification clause in it, we're basically signing something that's invalid. And by doing so, we would it's my understanding, and Mr. Breen may want to discuss further, but we would expose Kathleen personally as a personal liability exposure as a fiscal officer. And that's not something that Mr. Bream, our counsel, and the subcommittee in finance want to do. So we asked the representatives that they'd be willing to strike that provision. They are not at this time, and probably not in the near future. They might be next year at this time, potentially. So based on that, what we recommended in the subcommittee, and then again here earlier in the finance committee, is that we accept the same plan at the 13% increase. The only other difference in the plan from the expiring, the renewal term plan from the expiring was the deductibles. I think the single was 5,000 for next year compared to 4,500 currently, and 10,000 for the group compared to 9,000 currently. Everything else was the same. Exclusionary language and prescriptions were essentially the same. That's something else we looked at and asked about the MEWA, as if the exclusion were any different, if it was a more restrictive plan than our current plan. Is that, lending itself to the lower price? And the answer was no. We pulled the exclusions right here, printed them out, looked at these, and compared the MEWA to the existing plan, and they're essentially the same. So that's where we're at. We were going to recommend that we go ahead with the renewal amount at $431,926 annually, $35,000. I think that says $993, but I need my glasses. The monthly amount. Anything else, Mr. Breen, you want to add to that?
No, I'm glad to answer questions. A MEWA is a medical insurance group, but it's different from insurance. You sign a participation agreement, you pay premiums, but there are two problems with the agreement. It says that you'll indemnify some various people, and indemnification is you will pay whatever they have to pay. And it's an unknown figure, right? That's problem number one. Problem number two is it says if we're ever short, you will pony up your share of the shortfall. Again, an unknown number.
Oh, wow.
So as a village entity or a governmental entity, one of the whole keys to our system of government is the fact that we have a fiscal officer, and you have to appropriate all the money that comes in and that is spent. Every year you pass an appropriations ordinance. It says what we are going to spend, and it's tied into what your revenues are going to be. Right? You issue government bonds based upon that whole framework. Otherwise, government bonds would fail. If people were spending money they didn't have, local governments, the whole system would suffer. Right? So the difficulty is she, as fiscal officer, has to sign a contract saying that we have all the money for the contract appropriated. And it's one thing for the premiums, which are less, and we would love to be able to take advantage of those reduced premiums. But the problem is it comes with these asterisks that we have to be willing to pay an unknown amount at some future date. We've asked them to remove those provisions. We've been told that they can't do it. That's what all the other people signed, and they have to keep it the same for everybody. They've offered to do some things like putting a separate letter together for us, but that's not contractually binding because the contract says so. So an amendment has to be an amendment, has to be signed by both parties.
About a cover letter.
So
no,
we went around and we spent a lot of time on this. MEWAs have a really storied history that goes all the way back, and I'm glad to talk with any of you individually about this. But for our purposes, what's relevant is there are the provisions in it that, frankly, we have not been able to find a way that we can agree to that. She would be signing an invalid certificate. Potentially, there's personal liability for a fiscal officer for doing that. So again, I reached out. Back when we looked at this in 2019, this meet was only a couple months old. So now we're 2 years and a couple months old. They have a lot more participants, blah, blah, blah. We compared the agreements we looked at back then to this one. Again, it was substantially similar. The language, the controversial language is identical. So they've really made no changes since then to what is being required of local governments. I reached out to Squire Patton. They have a ERISA section that they looked at this 2 years ago and said you can't do it, and they've confirmed that again this year. So unfortunately, the recommendation is it's just not something that we are able to sign. You know, this is a program that's available through the chamber. You know, if you're a business and you have 20 employees and you want to sign to indemnify and pony up, you can do that. And if I had a business and I could save that kind of money, I might take that risk. But as a village government, we legally cannot, we can't ignore the rules. And that's what we would be, in my opinion, and again, it was confirmed by, you know, our outside counsel. That's what we would be doing.
We even did look further into it as to what that 10% could be potentially. So we had to look at the reserves that they had.
So they even have insurance
And
now
reinsurance.
to cover shortfalls. They have a 90% surplus insurance policy. Now, even that policy, we don't know what the cap is. And the agent said there's got to be a cap. There's some cap. No insurance policy is unlimited. Yes. So even that excess coverage has a cap. And again, we'd be signing up for whatever the excess cap, the excess will be above the cap, plus the 10%. We just can't do that. I cannot find a way we can do it.
There's gotta be caps on those things. So we can,
They could change their plan to accommodate local governments by removing that type of a provision,
indemnification provision, right?
requiring, you know, getting rid of the indemnification and getting rid of getting full excess coverage to the extent not requiring the any up provision.
But then the purpose of having a group is gone, because the whole idea of having the group is to pool the funds and kind of protect everybody, but it could also hurt everybody.
Our group is a small group. I mean, Sunbury only has, I think there are the 37 members that they rated us on. What was it?
27.
27 members. And unfortunately, our group is not that attracted because of numbers, because of history. A lot of things go into that, but they rate our insurance based on what our group looks like. Age, claims history, all that. And then they price insurance. The 13% is reasonable for insurance like we've always had. This is just another different program, but it's a consortium that has many more members. I think they told us they were up to 12,000 or something now members in that chamber plan. So it's spread out over a much larger group.
So their risk is obviously reduced.
The risk is reduced.
They can spread it across.
And then would require us to become a member of the Ohio Chamber of Commerce, and then we become a trustee.
Yeah.
And it's the trustee that is responsible for the potential 10% that should ever materialize.
It's maybe more detailed than what you needed, but we spent a lot of time trying to find a way because we really wanted to. So money's a big difference.
So we found out
Unfortunately,
that there were a couple other municipalities that did sign up for this.
Yes,
And I mean, how or why, or we don't know any.
I'm not their attorney.
I know that, so I didn't know if you reached out or.
We asked them, we asked Maggie.
We don't know. I mean, these are mostly the big cities aren't involved. So you're talking about smaller places.
Right.
You know, I can only guess that either they don't know or they know and they are doing it anyway.
They need the cost, maybe.
And Dave and I and Kathy had a conversation on the phone with, I think his name's Mr. Colby, the director of the chamber plan. And he couldn't tell us any details as to why or why not the three entities, municipalities.
You know, someone
Sign up.
sues
The
them.
solutions that they offer to us, I can tell you, are not legally supportable solutions, in
That's
my
the thing,
opinion.
and my fear for those other municipalities is they could potentially go bankrupt if something goes wrong really quickly.
You know, I hope for their sake and for everybody's sake,
That
and that
doesn't
view of it, that never happens.
Right.
But we live in a world today where bad things can happen. I mean, if another variant comes out and this time it affects 30% of the population versus whatever the percentage now, and everybody needs extensive treatment, all of a sudden who's paying for it? And then if we sign an invalid document, do we even have a contract? So it's something that unfortunately, we can't find a way to make it work within the rules that we as a government are supposed to be operating under. Hopefully they will, between now and our renewal next year, to the extent this is still, similar, they'll be able to make changes, but they weren't able to do it in the past 2 years. So we'll see.
Thank you, Dave. So based on that and what was said previously, we're recommending subcommittee and the finance committee, and Kathy and Mr. Breen, that we accept the renewal offering, same plan at the $431,925 annual premium.
You want that in the form of a motion?
We do need a motion.
I would like to make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Martin,
Second that motion.
second by Mr. Elliott to accept the United Healthcare Choice Plus Flex CNEN / looks like K35Y.
Yes.
Yes. Any further discussion?
We just need a simple motion, a vote, no resolution, no ordinance. We're accepting the agreement as this. Okay.
No discussion. Go ahead with the roll call, Kathy.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Greg Elliott,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Tim Ghost,
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
6 days.
Anything else, Mr. Gross?
That's all.
All right, Mr. Elliott?
No committee reports for me.
All right. We do have a zoning meeting. I think it's in 2 Mondays.
27th.
27th, yeah. All right, that's all for committee reports. We're on to the police report. DC Wade, do you have anything for us this evening? All right, thank you, sir.
Howard's on vacation, so I'm stepping in for him here. A couple things, we had spoke briefly about the drone. Jet folks has been utilizing this drone, kind of document captured some things for the city. The county, the sheriff's office has a drone program. They've been willing to come in and do a demonstration on a couple different platforms. A simple basic platform, which is referred to as a Mavic, and then a larger platform. Both do different things, and that demonstration is just January is what it's looking like now. The drone, the Matrice drone, has got some routine maintenance and is due back in mid-January. So hopefully we'll be able to get that worked out with weather in January in Ohio and the schedules and everybody's agenda, and hopefully get that done. On the 14th at 8:27 a.m., we had a 5-car crash here on Cherry at Gittner. Involved 2 buses and 3 other vehicles, 2 minor injuries from the vehicles. One of the bus drivers was cited for ACDA. Crash still remains under investigation. No further injury was reported. And then North Miller, we had several complaints with traffic on North Miller and with high school opening up. We kind of set up some patrol in the area, just kind of see where our speeds were and stuff. There was an extraordinary amount that's 5 to 10 miles per hour was supposed to speed limit, and they were stopping anything over 10 miles per hour, giving warnings, letting them know that stepping up patrol in the area, just to make everybody aware of that there with the North Miller area. So we're going to continue our presence there, and hopefully it helps mitigate some of that before the students start coming in here in January. That's it. Who's got any questions?
What do you think would fix that? Rumble strips, speed mountains?
So we want to look at it a little bit more. We're going to continue looking at it, and that would be my guess at this point. I mean, you start getting, so to give you an idea, those that were stopped in the warnings that were issued were mostly residents that live back there or around, or subjects that were running late to an event being taken place somewhere back there. So obviously that, and then some of the other traffic stuff that we're working through with that as well to come. So, but that would be a viable option to look at. We'd like to look at it a little bit more.
How about a potential stop sign? Is that something potentially in the cards?
I've talked about that in the past. I think that's a bigger discussion. Engineers typically don't like putting stop signs to slow down traffic. Mr. Parkinson,
We don't, but.
right?
Yeah.
It actually can cause like additional safety issues, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a much bigger discussion
Right.
for another day, but yes, stop signs for speed are proven to be ineffective and actually diminish the value of a stop sign.
Some of the other methods to address, I mean, substantial construction methods are to, narrow the roadway, put a median in between, trees along the street, add, more curvature to the road. Right now it's a runway. But those are significant improvements. And right now, I think we need to voice our concern, continue to talk to the existing residents in the neighborhood. That's in my neighborhood, the same way. The majority of the people speeding up and down my road are people that live in my neighborhood. Or getting to the next neighborhood.
A lot of it though, on that stretch is the construction workers coming in the morning and then leaving at 3 or 4 o'clock. That's what all the residents tell me. So maybe in those hours, we can step up the,
Our commitment has been 2P
Once they're
to
driving.
7P. We do more stuff in the morning, specifically when I go out to look here with our steps that are thrown forward here with traffic in that area as to how it's going to increase, and we kind of look at different timeframes through the day. But again, those times that we've looked at it and what we personally had happen here recently, it's been, like I said, the encounters have been more frequent with local residents and or events around the week thereof, disruption, traffic, and whatever else may be going back there.
and the radar signs first of the year, right?
What do you mean?
Back up.
As far
I
as.
don't
Can we
know
put
that. I don't know the schedule.
Our signs are out and about still at this point.
We have one on Miller Drive on North.
No, we do not have one currently on North.
They were, but then they were moved.
I know we move them.
They, move them, they're a great tool. We can show that just through the data that's analyzed from those, how many vehicles, not only is it a great traffic counter, but it's also, you can see the time of day, it increases efficiency. But when you get complaints from all over, you try to move those around strategically and work them in concert with your patrol staff as well. So it remains a working process, and try to make everybody happy to get some extra visibility in areas where we're getting the magnitude of complaints. So we'll keep at that.
You still have some of that data, all that data, right, that you captured with those radar signs?
We keep all that.
I want to get that.
Yes.
Okay.
We keep all that.
Good deal.
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Brooks's drone on duty during Christmas on the square?
It was,
I don't believe he was here.
Okay, there was something with 2 little red lights on it.
that was Santa. I have it
Northern
on video.
Sunbury sky.
I still could not figure that out. It wasn't just
For
2.
an hour and a half. It was just hanging up there back and forth this way.
So he was checking, it was not even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
I wanted to make sure I had my hat on straight.
Santa. All right. Part of the administrator report. Steve, top that.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think I can. My report was posted earlier to the shared drive this week. 3 items on it, on the report. I'd like to give you either additional information or clarify. In terms of the assistant administrator position, we have a verbal agreement on the employment contract. There's a couple clerical items that need fixed on it. It's minor. It's not even a material fix. They are literally clerical items. He has requested and he's willing to sign the contract, but he's requested that if somebody could hold off until the first meeting in January to do it, that works well, in terms of his timing with his current employer and some things that they have going on. But he said if we have the complete contract, he's willing to sign it now. He just asked us to wait until that first meeting in January to make it totally official so that he can, a couple of days before our meeting, he will have his meeting, be able to inform his council of what's going on, and then they'll be moving on to listing their house. And at that point, the news will spread there. So
When does the 90 days start? Are we already in the 90 days?
we are in the 90 days. He's asked for a March 1st start date. So it'd be January and February, and he'd be here March 1st.
Okay.
When I'd originally told the 90 days, I had it like the 22nd of January of February. So it's basically one week beyond that.
Let's get his signature on it. We'll have it ready to go and not approve until the first meeting in January.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
So he doesn't, just to clarify, he doesn't really need 90 days. It's a date certain.
March 1st. It was 90 days from when maybe we thought
Right.
we'd have it.
Yeah, when we
Really,
started
he's
the
looking-
process.
We could amend that then to be March 1st so that as we put it off, we're not prejudicing ourselves
Correct.
to the start date.
Yep.
Let's see. Two other things, the retaining wall construction will begin tomorrow.
Good deal.
And hopefully they'll be able to get that thing out of the way by the end of the year still. And I also wanted to mention Invoice Cloud, our new technology to manage, receive, and pay your utility bill is online. It went up last week, and thank you to the two Kathys and Rhonda for getting that evolution of our utility billing system up and running rather smoothly, very smoothly, actually. And other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that might have come after you read my report.
Questions? Great job, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. I've lost my agenda. There we go. All right, we're on to the engineer's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Beginning the slow period for the engineer's office, the Sunbury Public Works projects have wrapped up. The two with the reservoirs, the trail, and the street program are all finished, and we're working through the closeout documents on those. The private sector clients aren't many out there doing much work right now. Vantage is under roof, and most of that work is inside the building. And I think Mr. Newman is also more or less inside the building for the most part there as well. The car wash is coming along slowly, but it's still proceeding. The sewer project is substantially complete. We'll need to finish up a couple of small items, fence and some pavement in the spring, in which case we'll then be able to close out that project and certify the final costs as well. We are working in design ways on phase 3 and phase 4 of the Fallen Heroes Trail. Phase 3 is substantially complete for design work. We're going to marry that with the phase 4 work into one project that will advertise for bids likely in late February, early March. We're scheduled the survey work, and we're just waiting for the surveyors to get done. Hopefully with this good weather, they'll be out there this week and finishing that up. We've got all the base work done. It won't take long at all to finish out the phase 4 work and to bundle that project and get it ready for bidding. The price in Rolling Hills continue to work through the winter. I think on your agenda this evening is approval of the price section 1 plans. I think they'd like to get going here when the weather breaks in the spring. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. With that, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
I do have a question. I was confronted by somebody at the grocery store yesterday about the extension to the Fallen Heroes Trail and about how much water sometimes gets flooded down in that area. And how good is it going to be for a paved trail to be under 6 to 8 inches of water? And I didn't know if anything had been done addressing the water issues in that area or not, but he's going to be making some noise about it here before very long.
Okay, those are fair questions. It's a floodplain, so it's going to be wet. It doesn't take a lot of heavy traffic. It doesn't take any heavy traffic. It's bikes and pedestrians and things like that. So I think the trail will hold up well under those conditions. There'll be times when you may not want to use the trail because the creek is out of its banks, but that's just part of putting it along the bank and along the river, the creek rather, and down in that area of the woods. But I think for the most part, it'll be fine.
I'm just telling you now, the question is going to come up.
We'll be ready.
I just had one question. It looks like on January 5th for the Services Committee meeting, we're going to be discussing the high school traffic improvement study, roadway improvements programming. I'm hoping we're getting down into some good detail. I know the services committee is hungry to start really focusing on what our next investment in alleviating traffic concerns, especially with the opening of the new high school. I do want to call out what DC Wade said as well. One of the traffic improvements that was identified in the traffic impact study was a northbound turn lane that would have been heading west on Cherry Street. That was actually one of the improvements, and that's where we had the multi-car pile up right there. And traffic actually, for whatever reason, has been backing up between Kintner and Cherry Street when you're heading, or excuse me, between Kintner and Miller when you're heading west. The Kintner light signal is either off, or we are having that significant amount of traffic heading north that's slowing the traffic. So I did want to call that out. But to confirm, January 5th, we're going to have a comprehensive review of that program. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. Thank you. No other questions? Anybody else? Right. Thank you. We are on to resolutions. No third readings. Second readings, none. First readings, none. Ordinances, third readings, ordinance number 2021. Pardon me? Third reading, second reading, first reading. We're on to ordinances, third reading, ordinance number 2021.49 is going to remain tabled. We're on to ordinance 2021.54. This is a third reading, an ordinance approving other comprehensive basis of accounting principles, OCBOA, for City of Sunbury annual financial statements. And today is the 15th. Are we able to just pass this,
Yeah,
Norma?
just pass it
All right.
because the reports are due at the end of February.
Okay, great. All right. Do I have a motion to pass OCBOA financial accounting methods?
Make a motion to pass ordinance 2021.54.
Got a motion by Greg Elliott,
Second.
second by Damon Capel. Discussion. Roll call.
Greg Elliott.
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
Tim Ghost.
Yes.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
Dave Martin.
Yes.
6 yeas.
All right, we're on to second readings, ordinance 2021.59, an ordinance approving the commercial and industrial site plan and building application of Larry Mormon Investments LLC for construction of building additions to an existing industrial office warehouse located at 720 Kinder Parkway and declaring an emergency. I believe this is a reading only. And we're on to first readings, ordinance number 2021.01, fourth amended, an ordinance amending the 2021 annual appropriations and declaring an emergency. We're only going to have first reading on that. Ordinance number 2021.60, an ordinance approving the construction improvement plan sets for street, storm, water and lighting and sanitary sewer improvements for Price Pond Section 1. Reading only. And we're on to ordinance number 2021.61, an ordinance approving the editing and inclusion of.
Sorry, on 2021.60, is there more, is there like a plan or a plat in the OneDrive or upload?
Yeah, and it's huge.
Okay.
I started looking through it earlier. One of the files was, I think, over 100 pages. It's very detailed. It's a good read. There's 5 files.
Yeah,
So
so sleep and hold on.
I'll be in it.
Yeah.
Christmas break.
A lot of what it is stormwater and the roadway improvements as stated in the ordinance, but it's very detail oriented, like crosswalks and trails and signage in the streets, if I'm not mistaken, like how the paint's gonna lay on the street, that type of stuff.
Good to go. Sorry.
No problem. Any other questions on that? Sorry, I skimmed right over it. We're on to ordinance number 2021.61. An ordinance approving the editing and inclusion. I'm going to pause for a second. We are meeting with Matt Callahan from Pulte to discuss some other matters. And if you see anything before Tuesday, please let me know or Steve know. Anything within the review of that particular plan. One thing that's unique about this, the way they're doing section 1, is it's basically an east to west connection from Millstone Court all the way over to Cheshire Road, Golf Course Road. And it's it's pretty significant part of the project. I mean, it's the lion's share of the infrastructure running through the middle. I'm not asking you to read through all the documents, but if you see something that stands out, specifically around like tree removal, road placement, it doesn't line up with what you thought it was supposed to be, please bring that up and we can address it with Matt. Back to 2021.61, an ordinance approving the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as part of the various component codes of the codified ordinances of Sunbury, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
First
Layman's-
reading tonight, we just got it, but this is our annual codifier, putting things in our codified ordinance book that were passed at the state level that need to be codified, things that we passed locally that need to be codified. So get a chance to read through it, but we thought we'd get it on for a reading tonight.
Great, thank you.
And one thing in the title of the ordinance, we have 20.21. Make
It's like
that
a
a
typo.
Yep. So.
We're on to new and unfinished business. I'm gonna go around the horn and then come back to these particular items. Mr. Elliott.
Nothing new or unfinished for me, sir.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ghost.
The other thing I was just in my mind was, we talked about earlier, was tomorrow, we're gonna go to the new high school dedication ceremony. I think Mr. Mayor will go along 5 PM, I believe.
5 PM to kick off in the new gym.
Mhm.
Great to see.
So
you.
that's
But
exciting.
there's a facility of the outside athletic facilities at 4 o'clock.
Right.
The ceremony's at 5 o'clock, and then the tour through the building is at 6 o'clock.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I've driven back.
How I got sick.
The past 2 days, they finally opened up the gates to the back of the building. I drove back there. It's pretty sweet. It's pretty nice. I'm looking forward to leveraging the space, but it'll be nice.
It's great. It's like I said, it's about a 8-minute jog up there for my dog and I to the turf. Had her on the turf.
Yeah.
Officially, probably shouldn't mention that. Just playing, we're just playing. No droppings and up and down the steps.
Yeah.
So,
And no one may know the answer to this, but are they gonna play, are they gonna finish their basketball season at the new gym? Do we know?
I don't know that.
Okay,
I don't know.
just wondering. I don't know.
I know that they've asked us to relocate all the wayfinding signs during their Christmas break, so.
I almost think
I don't
they're doing a complete overhaul of the existing.
Yeah.
Right, the existing high school, right? Okay,
I don't see why they wouldn't if they're gonna have school over there.
exactly.
That's a good point. Can't play tennis yet. The courts aren't up, in case you were wondering.
Okay.
That was the next question.
All right, my tennis elbow's bugging me anyway.
Can't remember who we were to.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have anything to write.
Ms. Cooper?
Yeah, I don't see it under new business, so I just wanted to clarify. I think we mentioned in finance that we are gonna have a meeting on the 29th.
That's correct.
Okay.
For the dedicated council members. In case you're not here.
I'll be here.
Is there anything else? You have one more thing you can tell. What is it?
Well, I just wanted to, are we gonna, just as far as because we'll have 2 council openings, so.
Oh, on the
we're gonna-
29th?
No, coming up in January.
I have on my
Mr. Moore.
version, council applicants discussion or new unfinished business.
Well, that's not on mine, so that's why I said I started this whole thing off with, I don't see it on the agenda.
I can cover a little bit
Okay.
more in detail.
We can move on.
Mr. Martin?
I'm so confused that I don't know what to say.
So were you gonna mention, Mr. Mayor, about the applicants?
Yes.
and months? Okay.
Yeah, if nobody else didn't, it sounds like
Yeah, go
we're
ahead.
halfway there. All right. I'm gonna go into new and unfinished business. Council applicants, let's start there. We had 8 applicants for 2 open positions to be effective for a 1-year term starting in January. And myself, President Ghost, and Steve Piles have already scheduled, I'll call it an interview session. We're trying to basically take the 8 candidates and whittle the list down to 3 or 4, where we would have them interview with council on, I think, the 29th, if I'm not mistaken. And that, Greg, that'll potentially pose a problem for you.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do both.
Conflict of interest.
I like that Elliot guy.
That guy's great.
Yeah, good looking.
But yeah, we're gonna do the whittling process next Monday evening, and we're gonna do it for about 4 hours straight. So coming out of that, we should have 3 or 4 candidates that will notify that will be there on the 29th. And look
So
to
will
it.
that meeting
You're assuming I'm
primarily
getting-
be that, or we'll have a regular meeting and then we'll go into an executive session? or
It'll be
how
a
will that-
regular meeting, but I'd ask if you have a bunch of things like streets program for 2023 or, things like that. Let's maybe defer to the January meeting. So it'll be a normal meeting.
Will we go into executive session?
Potentially.
I'll say for the record, Mr. Elliott's first out of the gate on Monday as well.
Oh, okay.
4 p.m. 4 p.m.
I don't want to
Don't
set
be
the bar
late.
high.
Don't be late.
Be there at 3:15.
What's your number one complaint of council members?
Cindy Cooper sweater. I'm sorry.
Is the process as clear as mud so far? By your 29th meeting, you should have 3 or 4 candidates that we're going to interview, and we'll most likely do some discussion behind executive session, potentially come out and make.
Will the interviews
Decisions.
be in executive session?
Probably not. I don't
Oh.
think so. I doubt it. We haven't done council positions in executive session.
They were public when we did them. No, they were in executive
They
session.
were in executive
They
session
were.
when you did.
The interviews weren't public. They
We didn't
weren't.
want the questions being known to the subsequent.
And the answers,
So I
right?
think
Was this during Zoom time frame?
It was.
had to be executive
It was an executive
for
session.
that reason.
We may change that.
Is that right, Mr. Bream?
I think that's right.
I thought it was the last time.
When I applied for council and didn't get it,
Look at you now.
Open forum.
Hold on to a
Public.
grudge.
This is the North Gate.
We weren't doing Zoom though then back then either, so
No,
couldn't cheat.
it was a packed house though, I remember. All right. Anything else on that? Good deal. All right, reminder on Monday, this upcoming Monday, we have a joint meeting with the Delaware County Commissioners. Who will be there?
I'm planning to be, but I have a commitment at noon in Westerville, so if the meeting
That's
drags
9
on,
a.m.
I might have to get up and go.
Okay. 9
9 a.m. at the Delaware County Courthouse, I believe.
Yes.
Is that where they have it? I didn't think it was at the courthouse.
I think
We have the
they're
address.
now in the old courthouse.
The old one.
I think that's where their commissioner
101.
chambers are, but we'll notify you if that's incorrect.
The 20th at 9 a.m. Oh, I have
And the
that.
purpose again, Mr. Mayor,
Purpose is to recognize Sunbury as a city and do a joint session.
I'll be there. Do we have an address though?
Yes, we do, and we'll get that to you.
Thank you.
When's
Yeah.
it supposed to go to?
I don't know. We probably wouldn't have stayed too long.
Oh, I thought we were gonna stay all day and have dinner.
An hour or
We'll
so.
go straight into the 4 o'clock interview.
And it'll be a great opportunity to meet the new administrator. If you weren't aware, Tracy Davies, I believe is her name. I could be getting that wrong. Is that right, Steve? Tracy Davies? County Administrator, recently replaced Mike Fromer. Came from the City of Columbus Public Utility Works, was the director. Very experienced. I can't remember what other sewer district she ran before that. Dave, do you know? Parkinson? It was something, Marysville. I knew that because every time I drive up 33, I'm like, that was her. Very experienced in the wastewater treatment plant and water utility space.
Tracy Davies,
There we go.
Googled it.
Good deal. Thank you for confirming. All right, Big Walnut School. I want to give a real quick overview. Dave Bream forecasting out about 3 minutes. If we're willing to take action on this, this can be approved.
Motion and a vote. There's no expenditure involved. So, yes, I think we'd approve it by motion and a vote.
Great. All right. We had very productive dialogue with the school. I've met with Jeremy and Angie several times. Tim and I met with them one time, and then most recently, Deputy Chief Wade and myself met with Angie and Jeremy. And their desire is to have a part-time school resource officer from Sunbury. We're looking at this as potentially kind of a seed, and we could grow to be the school resource officer in the schools. Currently, they have a full-time school resource officer that's provided through the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. It's a mutually beneficial agreement. I mean, from our perspective, on the outside, it's a way for Sunbury Police to get connected with students. And oftentimes when things happen at the school, good or bad, and our officers show up, the kids don't know us. And they do know the sheriff's office. And we want to be, in schools, making a positive difference, getting them familiar with our department. And Angie and Jeremy agreed. They're going to be taking this forward to the board, I think, tomorrow for a first reading, a first view, and then potentially approving on the first meeting in January. A couple of additional items. One is it's 4 hours for every school day. So it's from 7 a.m. until 11 a.m. or thereabouts. For the first hour, this school resource officer would actually be doing traffic mitigation on Miller Drive and making sure there's no significant backups. The idea right now is they would actually be running the controller in the McDonald's parking lot. It's a big silver box, and they use a device called the pickle, and they should operate the traffic signal to allow flow manually. That's another component of it. The cool part of this is the schools pay half of the officer's salary and benefits. It's actually a quarter because we're only doing half of the day. So it equates to $30,000 or thereabouts a year, where the school is going to pay us for that particular service. So it's
So we reached an agreement how often they were going to pay us, like.
I believe it's going to be. They do currently with
Talking about
schools.
bi-week.
Yes, payment shall be made monthly.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't look like it's clear. It says payments shall be made, and then there's monthly/bi-weekly question mark.
Yeah.
I don't think you have the final version. I think
Oh, okay.
the final version, we changed it. We checked with Kathy.
Yeah.
That was a red line I think I did when I didn't know what she wanted.
Gotcha.
She said it's best that I just bill them and I get the money when I have to pay the money. So we do bi-weekly payroll, so. And to clarify, you hit it, but this was something I was confused on. So they're really only there 4 hours a day, the days they're there, right? But they're only there the days the school are in session.
Right.
So
175
they're not there during the
days.
summer. They're not there during, spring break. They wouldn't be there, during teacher work days, things of that nature. They've got some training and things they need to do, but they're basically paying a half of the salary for the year for those 4 hours a day. Right. But the officer is only there potentially half of the days of the year.
Is this
That's why
officer
it's happening.
going to be at the high school only, or are they going to be spread throughout the Wilmette?
No, they'll be spread throughout. Actually, I think initially we're going to work out the details. It specifies like there's going to be a kind of a program built around this, and there's going to be a liaison. And at least from our most recent meeting, they talked about actually doing a lot of engagement in the elementary schools and the intermediate school. And really there's an educator component to this, and they really want to have, our officer be the one who's educating, both faculty, teachers, and students. So
Will it require any special paperwork of any kind in order for this officer to do things at Highland Souders, since it's outside the village or outside the city?
we have agreements. Well, this agreement is for the entire Big Walnut local school district. We also have a cross-jurisdictional agreement with Delaware County. I mean, for example, like we are able to pursue outside of, just like we have with, I think it's Knox and Morrow County and Delaware County, all the jurisdictions overlap each other.
I'll have to look at that. We do have a, as Joe stated, an agreement with Delaware County.
Right, yeah,
So for mutual aid and so forth.
mutual aid agreement, but I didn't know that's in case, typically in case of emergency.
I have a feeling that the majority of the time this officer's there, they're going to be at the high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Got that
Well,
feeling.
no, I
But,
understand.
and, an interesting thing, it's all good discussion, but you just referenced, I don't think they're approving it tomorrow. They're approving,
Correct.
so we've got a meeting on the 29th. So why don't we just leave it on? You guys take the chance, study it, just in case they have changes. We're not approving something that either one of us has changed.
That's fine.
Is this going to be for one specific officer? Is this going to be one officer's job, or will this be a rotating, like different officers?
The agreement is for the officer position. We've identified an officer as the primary. I think we're still working on who the secondary would be.
So mostly the kids will
Yeah.
get to know one officer.
This would be a new part-time position then.
It'd actually be
Yeah.
we're actually doing a kind of a reorganization of the way we staff to address this. And is it okay if I say his name, officer's name? I think so too. Yeah.
You're shaking us.
Officer Whiteside is going to be our primary, and the schools know him, and they.
Does he know this?
Yeah.
Because he's also on vacations. Guess what? When you come back.
Funny thing is,
Now.
he was at the school the other day for something unrelated. They're like, "Hey, I heard you're going to be the guy," and it's like, "Oh, okay."
He does a lot of special duty for the football games, soccer games, all kinds of stuff.
He's
so.
great with kids.
Yeah.
The whole school resource officer thing is kind of a new creation, really, a state statute in Ohio. So there are parameters around it. We did build those requirements into the agreement, including the requirement for some training. So primarily, Cindy, to your point, it's really going to be one guy, I would think, or one officer that would do that training initially, but we are going to have some type of cross training in the event there is a vacancy or a need. So it's new, but that's as much as we know so far. But it's collaborative, and they're going to work together to try to get it set up and make it effective. And like I said, we're following what the county's already doing with it, but they're wanting to bring us in for their additional needs, including the traffic.
Will we
control.
still have a county?
Yes, they're going to have the county
resources?
person as well.
Okay,
This is an addition.
okay. A lot of questions from the homeschooler, huh?
18-month term initially, and the schools work off of a fiscal year from July 1st through June 30th. So this would give us enough time where we don't have to recomplete all the paperwork again in June, and enough time where we can kind of feel out the program to make sure the costs are what they should be and the coverage duties and things of that nature. Does anybody have any questions, or I'll say significant objections? I'm going to take back the Souders question. Any other comments or questions?
No, I think it sounds spectacular.
Thank you. I agree. All right. Next on the agenda, we have Joe Gokenauer, who served recently a 3-year term, I believe, appointment to the Planning and Zoning Committee. We do have the ability to reappoint existing members. I would like to make a motion to appoint Joe Gokenauer to a new 3-year term to start in January.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Martin. Discussion.
Should be noted that he has been contacted.
He's being voluntold.
I made sure.
It was in the report. It was in Steve Powell's report. I saw it.
Good deal.
Yeah,
You noted it.
we read those, Steve.
Roll call.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
David Martin.
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
Greg Elliott.
Yes.
Dan Ghost.
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
6 yeas.
Blanket purchase orders 35301 through 35354, $2,121,665. This is for next year.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, $2 million plus.
That's why I'm chuckling while I say that, so.
Do we have a second?
They're just blanket purchase orders for,
So primarily like, yeah,
I
there's
just
a
have
list of them.
Gasoline.
Oh,
Sewer,
Supplies.
payments and,
Things that make life a little bit easier.
yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, we have Greg
Spend
Elliott.
that money.
We haven't typically lumped them together like that, have we?
We have, yeah.
I didn't remember that.
It's an annual event.
Your sheet has a comparison from this year.
Yeah, Don,
You can check it out.
I believe you.
One payments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
loan payments were. Any discussion? Roll call.
David Martin,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Tim Ghost,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
Shay.
All right, we're on to purchase order number 35265, SME 5 South Columbus Street cleanup, 26,632.61 cents. This is where we have the wall, and it's the property that was I'll say there's petroleum assessment and that type of remediation. Is this reimbursable through the grant? Is what I was gonna say.
Serve, it's reimbursable through the grant, but we need to pay it
Okay.
upfront.
Thank you. This is reimbursable through the grant. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Greg Elliott. Discussion. Roll call.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Greg Elliott, Tim Ghost,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
David Martin.
Yes.
Any other new or unfinished business? Anything from Mr. Parkinson, Breen, Piles, or Ms. Belcher? Right. Would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion by Greg Elliott. Second by Damon Capel. Discussion.
We said Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas and happy holidays.
Festivus.
Yes.
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
Tim Ghost,
Yes.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
David Martin.
Yes.
Shay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.